On the 8th of October, around 6 a.m., there was a huge explosion on the Kerch Bridge. It is a bridge that is connecting Russia with the occupied Crimea. It was famously opened by Putin and is one of the crown jewels in his achievements on land grab that he's doing in Ukraine. The explosion significantly damaged some parts of the bridge, while also igniting the railway bridge where there was a train passing by at that moment. For a longer time, Kerch Bridge has been an important point of discussion around this war. Ukraine has said that they would like to target the bridge as soon as they have the means, and so far they didn't really have an option to reach it because while ATACMS missiles are still supposedly not delivered to Ukraine. So with that, they just didn't have anything that would hit the bridge so far away. And we knew that Kerch Bridge was also additionally fortified with anti-air missiles and so on. This leads us to believe that there might be now two versions on the table, at least as I've heard of this morning of 8 October right now. The first version being that yes, it was indeed some kind of missile strike. Maybe Ukraine did get ATACMS and just first thing they do is they strike the bridge. And then second version is that there was a truck that was driving exactly on the piece of the road where the explosion happened. And it seems that the explosion came from that because there was video cameras filming all of that. Unfortunately, I cannot show it on YouTube, but you can check out on my Twitter. The version that we are talking about here matters because if it was a truck, indeed it was a truck, then the question is, can it be repeated? And I'll show you on the map what I mean. So the importance of the Kerch Bridge comes down from the fact that it is situated here, and then it's also the main artery to supply the southern grouping of Ukrainians. So the resources, forces, supplies, everything comes in from through the Kerch Bridge. You ask, well, there's probably a railway network here, so what's the problem with this? Like, why don't they just get supplied from the occupied territories? There are two things to discuss here. First thing is that during the 8 years of war, Ukraine has decoupled itself from these territories. So there has to be new railways built in this area. Then, secondly, in the area around Mariupol, Berdyansk here, there was quite extensive heavy fighting, and Ukrainians has also targeted a lot of railway networks in this area. So right now, the section around Mariupol is also heavily damaged, and it's not suited for a quick connection between already non-existent connection and a damaged connection. So to do that, it's a significant effort, which Russia just didn't see the reason to invest the time and resources necessary. However, the Kerch Bridge was the only artery that fed this whole grouping. So the strategic significance of the Kerch Bridge is that if it can be destroyed and kept destroyed, it is a big downside for the Russian military because they are going to be essentially resource trapped. It's going to be repeating of the situation that we have in the north of the Kherson Oblast. And I have questions after today's explosions. Firstly, because the automobile bridge was damaged, which is nice, and this definitely prevents a lot, but the railway bridge was still somewhat intact. Yes, we saw that there is fire, but we didn't see any significant damage to the bridge. So that means that the railways probably will be able to work in quite short of a time. And railway is the most important part because that is how Russia gets all of its supplies. So that's why the version matters. If it was the truck, then obviously repeating this kind of attack would be a lot harder than just trying to use another ATACMS missiles if it was the ATACMS missiles. But that's the strategic significance of the Kerch Bridge. Second part of significance is the iconic significance because, as I said, Kerch Bridge has a lot of very crown jewel, like it was a crown jewel in the Putin's land grab of Crimea. So Kerch Bridge, destruction of the Kerch Bridge, even partial one, has sent like a big cold shiver down the spine of every single Russian, and especially those that are right now on the Crimean Peninsula. If before there was an explosion on the airbase in Crimea, then right now explosion of the Kerch Bridge is now just going to be another big hit of panic. It's going to be in line with the same of the destruction of Moskva, the loss of the Snake Island, the loss in the Kharkiv offensive, then losing of Liman, and now slowly losing Kherson, and now the Kerch Bridge. It's a series of defeats that Russia is experiencing, and this will continue accumulating. And that is the significance of the Kerch Bridge strike that we don't discuss a lot. Now, reaction to this, I don't expect to be any significant changes. I think the Ukraine will experience a lot more missile strikes because that's the only thing that Russia can do. Maybe more drone strikes, but I don't think there's going to be anything more. I mean, the full mobilization is already in order. Yeah, I know they call it partial mobilization, but we all know that it's not true. It's a mobilization that will go on until it's ending. But we can definitely see Putin or someone of his cronies come up with some kind of statements and discussing that how evil and bad Ukraine is. Maybe even call the UN Security Council where they're going to complain about it. All in all, I think the attack on the Kerch Bridge was a big success. I think the fact that it just fell apart is magnificent because it's not just a hole in the bridge, right? When one first saw the Antonovsky Bridge, yes, maybe when there was a big hole in the bridge, it was significant because it damaged some of the fundamental constructions of the bridge. But seeing like whole parts of the Kerch Bridge in the water, that is a sight to behold. And believe me when I say it, every Russian felt this by this point.